Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. This is the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Russell Jackman. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question. And again, because Russell loves the NBA, we had to choose the NBA.
Oh, don't blame it on me. Don't blame it on me.
Well, that's okay. Then let's see. These questions here are a little more challenging, but they're not like going back to the year 1522. So I think you'll be okay. When we get back, a lot of different things to talk about. Mark Cuban selling a majority interest in the Mavs. Tyreek Hill taking care of the videographer's salary. We'll talk about what happened there. And come on, Pistons. What do you think? What are their odds of winning?
Yeah. 0.000.
Yeah.
Like Plutarski's GPA in Animal House.
Yeah. Hey, fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through college.
No way to go through life, son.
Yeah. Go through. Oh, that's right. It was go through life. Yeah, you're right. They were only 2-17 at the time that I put this together. And I want to ask you, as the legal background that you have, when we get back, about also how come players can break contracts but owners can't? Seems like it's a one-sided equation there. And Florida State out of the playoffs, even though they were undefeated. We'll talk about that. Monday Night Football game. Trevor Lawrence. I don't know what's going on. Probably done for the year. And Alabama quarterback Tyler Buckner. He's transferring out of football to play lacrosse. I'm sure there's a lot more money in lacrosse than football. Okay. All right. You are listening to, nothing against lacrosse. It's a great game. It's been around for a very, very long time, actually. All right. Stay with us. You are listening to Sports Econ 101. Do not touch that dial. We are going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here, along with Russell Jackman. All right, Russell, I have a whole bunch of different things to talk about, but why don't you start? What do you want to talk about first?
There was anything else going on this week? All I know is that the 49ers and Eagles game happened.
Yes.
And everything else after that just kind of fell into place otherwise.
That's true.
In fact, I don't even know that there was any other football that happened on Sunday other than or Monday night. It's all been about the 49ers clock cleaning of the Eagles. And I was
going to say, wasn't that amazing? Like the first quarter, the whole quarter.
Minus 6 yards.
Yeah.
And then after that, 6 consecutive touchdowns in 6 possessions.
Pretty amazing.
But a bigger question, the bigger thing that comes out of that game was the security guard versus Dre Greenlaw. What was your thought about that?
It was kind of, as soon as he did that tackle, I'm thinking, don't slam a guy to the ground, especially when you're out of bounds. But
why? That's a big question right there. He started the tackle inbounds. He wound up out of bounds, but the tackle started inbounds.
Sure. Yes, that part I don't have as much of a problem with. But when you look at the tackle, it's like he really kind of slams him down.
But the guys slam guys down all the time. And if you'd watched the game, the Niners were having a lot of trouble tackling and stopping the Eagles from getting extra yards. So, I mean, obviously the coaches were telling the guys, make sure you wrap these guys up and don't let them get any extra yards. So I personally do not have a problem with that type of tackling. I mean, this is the NFL. You're supposed to be able, the idea is when you grab a guy, you bring him down to the ground. And whatever it is basically legal as long as you're not grabbing the face mask or doing a horse collar.
Yeah, except that, I mean, this one, it kind of looked a little bit more like a wrestling move where, guys trying to like.
Even if it is, how is that not legal? I mean, guys do that kind of tackle all the time in the NFL every week. I see that, not just Dre Greenlaw. I see that happen every single week by defenses in the NFL. Dre has more of he's kind of got a Draymond Green kind of reputation
Yeah.
around him, and I think
Mhm.
that's one of the reason why they called it on him was
Oh, okay,
because
so let's kind of go on to what you said though. So
yes,
he goes ahead and tackles them, and one of the first things that happened is this big security guard. I guess he's
who
on
has
the.
no business whatsoever being on the sidelines, by the way.
Well, okay, that's interesting. He's a security, but he's not just a regular security guard. He's like in charge of security for the Eagles, not necessarily um, the stadium, as I understand it. I could be wrong on that, right?
But even then, what is he doing being involved in an actual game itself? He's not on the coaching staff. He's not on, he's not part of the actual, staff
You're
of
no,
the.
you're right. You're right. I mean, it'd be one thing for him to be like just standing around and just sort of like making sure fans don't go, attack players and stuff.
Right.
However, right, as soon as the tackle happened, there's no place for him to be getting in the face or touching any other
No.
player. In fact, that's the reason why he got thrown out.
Right. But I think that the Eagles themselves should be heavily fined for having him get involved in this and be that close to the action. He should be doing his job, which is enforcing security and not interfering with
I
the
mean,
outcome.
I hope no. I hope that they don't. Why would they find the Eagles? This guy, he's stepping outside of his realm to take it
Because
upon himself.
they should have said to him, "Get the heck off of the sidelines and do your job." Otherwise, what is stopping other teams from bringing other non-official personnel in and interfering with other teams' players and getting them ejected? That was something that, I would take that exchange anytime. If the 49ers could put someone on the sidelines that could just be designated annoyer that would then get kicked out, and there's no repercussions, but the other team loses a player for the entire game. Aren't other teams going to have incentive?
Oh, that's actually a very good point. It kind of reminds me of back in the 70s. You remember Woody Hayes, the coach for Ohio State? He literally his quarterback threw an interception, and as the defensive guy was running it back, Woody Hayes literally stepped onto the field and tripped and tackled the guy.
So did Tom Coughlin, didn't he? A while back.
It may have happened, but it's like, and the thing is, I don't even think they gave the guy a touchdown, which they should have. I mean, that should have been an automatic touchdown. Which again,
right, but at least Woody Hayes was part of the actual team.
Yeah,
sure. He actually had a reason to be on the sidelines and to be there.
Sure.
Why the head of security is standing next to the coach and jawing with him during the game?
Well, it is Philadelphia. So, you never know what those fans are going to do, right?
I don't know. I mean, again, he is not enforcing anything security-wise, standing next to the coach, watching the game with him, acting like an assistant.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if there was when a real fight breaks out, and then security has to step in, and even sometimes between players, security doesn't really get involved. It's only when it gets really
between he should be the one interfering between fans and the team,
and Greenlaw, I don't think he meant to actually touch him, but I think he meant to just kind of put a finger in his face. And
I think so too. So that was unfair. I think Greenlaw was targeted because he's been outspoken, he's been controversial, and it could have changed the game, and it sort of did. But instead of firing up Philly, it fired up the 49ers. And they were the ones to then scored like 2 or 3 extra touchdowns after that.
Yeah.
And
I was a little concerned that the tide might have changed for Philadelphia after that, because I was thinking, oh, God, it's almost like when these guys, make these either silly predictions or they trash talk before a game, and it's like, you know what, guys, just be quiet and play the game. Don't do anything to rile another team up to give them an incentive.
Well, that's what's also interesting is that the coach for Philadelphia was saying, how the 49ers have been trash talking all week, and let's take it personal, let's remember it, and then they lose 42-19. So, if you're gonna try to motivate your team from trash talking, it doesn't do much good if then they show up and get their butts trounced by basically 30 points.
Well, can you remind me, why was there, like, they showed pregame how there was a little bit of scuffling between the players, and I don't remember what was it. Was it something about last year's playoffs where Brock got hurt?
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles did nothing but trash talk the 49ers after the 49ers lost that game. And obviously they've been saying that Purdy would get his again when he comes back to Philadelphia, and that Philadelphia would knock the 49ers back into oblivion, and we'll be sorry that we ever came to Philadelphia, and all of that. And it was one of the biggest.
That's, to me, that's really uncalled for, because again, I last year when Brock got hurt, it wasn't a dirty play. It just was one of those unfortunate things. Very similar, Trevor Lawrence, his own guy steps on him, and it's just one of those unfortunate things. Hey, tell you what, let's go to our first commercial break here. And again, in honor of Russell Jackman, because we love him so much, we have to talk about
Ed, I'm here in honor of me. You're making it sound like a memorial. Not dead yet.
Not that yet. Okay, well, you woke up without a toe tag on. That's a good day. All right. First,
but still with my kidney stone. No toe tag.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. You never want to get rid of that one, right?
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
All right. First trivia question: who did the Cleveland Cavaliers lose to in LeBron's first ever NBA Finals?
Okay.
Okay, that's our trivia question. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101 will be right back. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Our first trivia question on the NBA was, who did the Cleveland Cavaliers lose to in LeBron's first ever NBA Finals?
Was it Dallas?
No.
Or was it San Antonio?
It was San Antonio.
I knew it was a Texas team. I
knew it was a Texas team.
Getting the order of whether it was Dallas or whether it was San Antonio. So it was San Antonio.
It wasn't Houston. Spurs won 4-0.
Yeah, and then a lot of people accused LeBron of quitting on Cleveland, and that's when he moved over to Miami.
Oh, yes. Excuse me.
The decision.
Okay. Excuse me. Really quickly. Okay, Trevor Lawrence last night. We're recording the show on Tuesday.
Guess who the lead quarterback is for my fantasy football team?
Trevor Lawrence.
Thank you.
Oh no!
Thank you very much.
You got smoked again, didn't you?
Yes, I did again. Sad, pathetic, weak 4-9 football team. Now,
he was doing pretty well for you, though, wasn't he? Earlier?
I was 4-9 before this. So, but this now, I had already Kirk Cousins as my quarterback. I had Nick Chubb as my running back, and now Trevor Lawrence. I've lost 3 players due to season-ending injuries in one season that were major factors for me. So,
I actually heard that during the draft, they want to interview you to find out who you're choosing for your fantasy team.
So they can avoid picking them. Why do you think I didn't choose Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Didn't pick any 49ers this year because I didn't want to jinx them with my bad luck. If I picked someone that wasn't on the 49ers, I should have picked all Eagles and Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. Your 2 favorite teams.
Yeah, just to be sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because sometimes rivalries they change. I mean, in the old days, I remember it was the Chiefs.
Oh, sure, the Niners, Seattle. If you'd said in the 70s, the Niners would hate the Seattle Seahawks so much when the Seahawks were in the AFC West, you would say, okay, the Seattle was nothing but like a little blip on the 49ers radar. Now they're the most
Oh, wait a
hated team.
minute, wait, hold on. When they were in the AFC, it was really them and the Raiders. There was no competition between the 49ers and the Seahawks.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is if you had said in the 70s that eventually we would hate Seattle. Plus, Seattle was terrible. Plus, Seattle was like one of the worst teams in the league. So when they first came to the NFC West, I was like, oh, thank God, that's a nice buy for us.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll beat them up every year, and we did for a number of years. But then once Pete Carroll came, Redwood High School's own Pete Carroll came to Seattle. They've been a real contender ever since.
Yeah,
and a thorn in our side. But we're going to get them this week. So they come to San Francisco this week, and I think that San Francisco is going to be just out of control with the way they beat Philadelphia and how they beat Seattle a couple of weeks ago in Seattle.
Yeah,
maybe whatever it is, I take the over this week. Whatever the line is. I'm not one to give gambling advice, but I would give gambling advice on the over this week for the 49ers.
What do you think it's going to be, like 56
100
or something?
points. I think if the 49ers can score 100 points, they will. We may see Sam Darnold in the third quarter. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, wow. Okay, so between you and me, should we have a bet? I'll take under 100 points.
Well, 100 points. I don't think I wouldn't put enough money on it, but then again, I don't gamble on sports except for people, singing. I'll do a singing bet, but I won't put any money on sports. I'll make people.
What do you mean a singing bet?
Well, when I lost last year with the Philadelphia Eagles winning, I had to sing "Philadelphia Freedom" to a friend of mine on Facebook. I had to record a video, and he was going to have to sing Scott McKenzie's "If You're Going to San Francisco."
Oh, gotcha.
He was going to have to sing that one.
I got to look that up. Did you do a good job?
Yeah, I thought I did, except, I changed the words. I said, "Philadelphia Eagles, I hate you. Yes, I do."
Oh, and for those who don't remember, that was a famous Elton John song back in the 70s. Okay. So going back to NBA for a little bit, Mark Cuban reportedly is selling a majority interest in the Mavs for $3.5 billion. Now, he bought the team in 2000 for $285 million. Excuse me. And I'm just assuming, 285 turned into 3.5. I'm not going to look at, majority interest or, whatever, because they weren't very clear in the article. Guess what the rate of return was for having $285 million turn into $3.5 billion?
You're the math guy, so I'm gonna leave that.
I am, but why don't you take a guess? It's 23 years.
Oh my God. I know that 30 years ago, I know that Mark Cuban was sleeping on other people's couches.
Yeah.
And he was so broke and had to couch surf to make it. And now he's worth, about $4 or $5 billion. It's really talk about a rate of return there.
Infinity on that. No, it's funny. It's only a 10.95. It's only 10.95%.
It's how much?
10.95%.
Really? I thought it would be more than that.
I know.
I thought it would be.
That's as Einstein says, compound interest, eighth wonder of the world.
Yeah. Well, and Albert Einstein, if he had really been smart, would have started his own NBA franchise. Would have made a lot more money doing that than inventing the nuclear bomb.
That's true. Hey, what's interesting was last night's game with Jacksonville. Their center, I don't remember his name, but they made a comment on Monday Night Football. This guy's got a master's degree in aerospace engineering. Isn't that crazy?
No, that's good. That's
that's awesome.
To fall back on. He should call up Queen's guitarist Brian May, who's also an astrophysicist and one of the smartest people on the planet.
Well, and interesting. You remember the musical group Boston?
Yes.
Yeah. Every one of those guys was an MIT guy.
Believe it. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
again, maybe the greatest single album in history when you consider they didn't really release any other albums that did
Yeah.
any merit. You know, that every song on that Boston, first
This one?
album is amazing. But
Yeah,
I
it
don't
really.
think they have any other albums that anyone paid any attention to. It was
Well, and then, you know what? The second one, "They at least don't look back," was a really good song, but
right. But the rest of
then
that
there's
album, not the hit
not as
machine.
much. Yeah, they definitely
Yeah,
had cool graphics though for the.
yeah, with the spaceship and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that was, and same thing with Asia. They always had these really
Yes,
cool
with the
graphics.
dragons, the painted dragons.
Yeah,
And
that's
yes,
also a very. In fact, it's funny. On my Pandora, I love the group Asia, and I had only known about the first album, and then suddenly all of these other songs come up that are phenomenal, and I guess I never knew. So it's really kind of very very cool to find out all these groups you like had all these other songs that you never even knew about.
hidden
Um,
gem.
okay, so yeah, yeah. So you're telling me the Pistons are not going to win the championship? Is that
Maybe Mark Cuban can go by them. Maybe
yeah,
with
what are they, 10,000 to 1 or something? No, I think it's
yeah,
100,000.
you could take another 200 million, buy the Pistons, make another 3.5 billion on them when they eventually, 30 years from now become a good team. I
You
do
know what?
find it fascinating that James Wiseman has not been offered an extension on his contract, meaning that he becomes a unrestricted free agent at the end of this year, which really shows how ineffective James Wiseman truly has been for
Yeah.
this time in the NBA. He just really hasn't made it work in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
And
it reminds me of Patrick McCaw. I kept trying to think. I go, what is his name? Patrick something McCaw. Whatever happened to him?
nothing. I mean, he went to Toronto, I think, and got hurt, and that was really the end of it. A lot of ex Warriors have that history, like Festus Ezeli.
Oh
They
yeah,
one great year for the Warriors, or James Michael McAdoo. You know,
yeah. He
you
was
know.
a nice guy, but terrible. I mean, he was
Well, he
very.
was great for the Warriors for 1 year, and then as soon as they're done, the Warriors, throw him back on the trash heap, and that's the end of it. And
No,
they
but he was.
usually,
I mean, he was nothing like his. I think it was his uncle, wasn't it? Bob McAdoo was
yeah,
his uncle.
Bob McAdoo,
Yeah,
absolutely.
he's phenomenal.
Yeah, but what
Hey,
I'm saying is that the Warriors have this kind of history of one and dones with guys, and once they're done using them, they rarely, other than JaVale McGee, they haven't had a lot of guys leave the Warriors from the. And look, Jordan Poole is just a
yeah,
disaster with teeth. I mean, talk about you're making fun of Detroit, but Washington is no better. The Washington
yeah.
Wizards no better, and with Jordan Poole, they're a complete
If
disaster.
these guys could learn some humility, I don't care how good you are. Like Steph Curry, he's nice and humble, even though he knows he's the greatest. Okay, tell you what, we're going to go to our second trivia question. Speaking of the Pistons, who won the MVP finals when the Detroit Pistons won in 2004?
Oh wow. Okay.
Excuse me. Who was the MVP finals? That's our trivia question. Stay with us. Excuse me. Sports Econ 101 will be right back. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown and Russell Jackman here. Second trivia question about the NBA. Who won the NBA Finals MVP when the Detroit Pistons won in 2004?
That's a tough question because there was no really, really dominant player on that 2014. In fact, if it were up to me, I probably would have given the MVP to Larry Brown because I think he had his best coaching year coordinating a bunch of very not compatible individuals to equal a really great team. They were one of the better teams without having a single great player on there. But I'm going to guess it was Rip Hamilton.
No, that would have been a good. When you think of Rip Hamilton, you probably would think of this guy too. But that would be
Phillips.
yes, Chauncey
Okay,
Billups.
I was trying to remember whether it was Chauncey or whether it was Rip Hamilton. But I mean, you had Ben Wallace on there, you had Rasheed Wallace on there, you had, a bunch of real role players. No one guy was really dominant on that team. And
because
yet
Lambeer had already retired, didn't he?
oh yeah, that was no, they had Ben Wallace as their center at that point.
Same thing with Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas,
he wasn't there at all. This was after that. They stopped that Super Laker team that had Karl Malone on it and that had Steve Nash on it, as well as
Laker. You mean Utah Jazz?
No, the Lakers. There was one last year where Karl Malone and Steve Nash. And
Steve Nash, I'm thinking of John Stockton. Okay.
No, where the Lakers tried to load up on one last time, and with Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant and all that stuff to try to stop, and they were trying to get one title for Karl Malone, and he got hurt right before the finals, and Detroit pulled off the huge upset. It might be maybe the biggest upset right in our time. Since maybe the Warriors won, or the Bullets won, that there was a team that nobody was thinking would win the NBA championship and actually did. So,
gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, I give a lot of credit to Larry Brown. I think that he made that all happen because it's a lifetime achievement for him.
Hey, go to football for a minute. So Florida State is out of the playoffs, even though they were undefeated. Now, apparently they had an easier schedule, but nothing that they could do about that. And also their regular quarterback and backup was hurt. Alabama lost a game, but is still in the playoffs. So my question is, how much of this is a popularity contest? It's like the guys who are saying, okay, well, who's going to be in here? Well, you know what? Who wants to see a third string quarterback, even though their Florida State's undefeated compared to Alabama? You know what I mean? What do you think?
The whining of college football and the annual my team beat your team and your team beat this team, therefore my team is better than this other team argument never ends. It never ends. And I thought that the BCS would stop it. I thought the playoffs would stop this whining. I thought when they added 4 teams, you would stop the whining. And the whining is built into college football. College football is so whiny, I refuse to watch it. I really do. I get sick.
Even the championship?
Yeah, I really don't care for college football because of all the whining that happens during the season about how my team is better than this team and this team is better than that team. So I should be better than that team. And you know what? Just go ahead and do a 64-team tournament so that we can listen to the number 65 team whine about how they didn't get into the damn playoffs, just like the NCAA tournament. I can't believe it. Every year, NCAA tournament, there's people whining that they're the number 66 team, and they're like, we make the NCAA tournament. It's like, because you're 66. You're the 66th worst team in the nation. You really think you're going to win a title when you're number 66? Get out of here.
And you know what they'll do? They'll point to Brock Purdy being Mr. Irrelevant, and look how well he's done.
Well, that's a different story because you're talking about, a team and what they've done all season versus where you get drafted. Drafting is an inexact science. But when you play a college season of football or a college season of basketball, live with the fact that you were the 5th best team in the nation. How often do we see in any playoff format, in any sport, where the 5th best team winds up winning a title? How often does that happen?
Not too often, but here's the point: is Florida State is saying, I believe they're saying, listen,
they're always going to say
we're undefeated. Yes. Alabama lost a game,
right?
So why?
And that's what you're always going to hear. There's always going to be some team that's undefeated, because they play Poughkeepsie State and they play, the Sisters of St. Mary's or whatever. They're playing, junior colleges and College of Marin and stuff like that in during their season, and they go, but one of the biggest problems was and has been for college football that they make their own schedules. And so, now you're starting to see those schedules start firming up. And Alabama had a much harder schedule. So they lost the game, but I credit that a lot more than a team that plays a bunch of cupcakes for, most of the season and then goes undefeated and then just whines to everybody about how they should be they should be in the college playoffs.
No, I can't.
Now,
I can't.
next
I
year,
can't prove it.
I think next year they move to 12 teams. I think.
Okay, that's okay. That'll help.
Listen, I guarantee you, next year the number 13 team will be whining and complaining and saying we should be in there because we beat this team, and
or hey, we were 3-12. Come on, that's pretty good.
Yeah, we were on a roll at the end. We won a single game at the end of the season. The momentum was going our way.
Momentum. Everything.
As long as college relies on polling and rankings to be able to, decide who's the best team in the nation, it's always disgusted me. And I'm not a fan of the bowls. I'm not a fan of college football in general because they just don't have a real season and a way of determining a champion the way every other sport does. They remind me of the Electoral College in the United States. How every other system in the entire world uses popular vote to determine who's president, and we're the one country that decides that we need to have the Electoral College.
I understand the reason for that, but
no, there isn't a reason. There isn't a reason.
Because otherwise, let's say you have most of the population in Texas. Let's say you got 51% of the people live in Texas. You want that in Texas deciding everything for the rest of the country?
Yeah, why do other countries manage to do it? And
I guess I don't know if they have other states the same way that we do, where states have their own rights.
Canada's filled with territories, and so is Russia, and so are lots of other places. They have territories, so it's not because we have states; it's because we have an antiquated system that nobody else has possibly thought of using. It's worse than the English set of measurements that we keep using and not going to the metric system.
Please don't make me learn the metric system again.
The problem is we have a mixed system. You have grams, you have nutrition in grams, but the serving size is in ounces. You have people filling up liter engines. What size is your engine? You say what size your engine is in liters, right? But then you fill it with gallons of gasoline. What the heck?
That's actually a pretty good point. I never really thought of it that way.
Yeah, you have football players running the 100-meter dash, but then they get on the field and it's yards and inches. None of it makes sense. We have the most illogical system of measurements and weights and distances and all of that stuff. And Jimmy, you may have disliked Jimmy Carter a lot, and God bless Rosalind Carter and her passing. But Jimmy Carter wanted us to move to the metric system in the 70s. If we'd moved the metric system in the 70s, we would be used to it by now. Now you have people, drinking out of a 32-ounce cup, but they fill it with a 2-liter bottle. I don't get how that.
Well, I say let the rest of the world change to our system. How's that?
No, no one would want to have a half-ass system like we have, and it costs us billions of dollars a year to have to convert things over from metric to English standard measurement, because we have to translate stuff and have stuff listed on boxes as both systems. And there's even things like rockets that have been, messed up in their trajectories because they would measure it first in meters and then it would be converted over to the English system and stuff would be lost.
So educate me about why is it costing billions?
Because you have to, anything that's marked in the United States, like you have a package of food or whatever, they have to include now both metric and English weights on it because they're going to sell
I know,
it.
but why is that costing billions?
Because every single package has to have additional writing on it to sell it here in the United States, and to sell it abroad, you have to have the metric labeling on it. So you can't.
And that costs billions, you think?
It does. If you do it, you add it all up. Every time something's printed, every time something is sold, every time something is measured, that's billions of dollars in lost productivity because we have to keep translating things over the.
Okay, so you're talking about the time it takes to do.
It's
Or
not
AI can do it right away, right?
Well, AI would tell us just move over to the metric system. the computer would say, "Why aren't you just using the metric system, you idiots?"
And then you have to add "you idiot" in there because AI.
And then it would launch all the nuclear weapons at us at the same time. So have you seen? By the way, have you seen any of the AI commercials of like fast food places or things like that on YouTube?
Only like only where a guy goes to get an order and then it asks for a tip and he's going, what am I supposed to tip the robot? That's the only thing I saw.
No, they have people like go to AI generators and say, I want to do a McDonald's commercial, and they let the AI go and surf the internet and use all of compiled human knowledge to make a commercial about McDonald's.
I haven't seen that.
And it's pretty horrifying. The way the computer like perceives us as McDonald's consumers. Everybody is totally fat and like eating like, opening their mouths unhinged and throwing in these gigantic burgers. And it just, I'll have to send you a link.
Okay, who programs the AI is my question.
Okay. Yeah, well, that is one thing, is that it depends on who programs it, but it's real nightmare fuel. It's just
it's so funny because when this first came out, like a year or whatever ago, they said, okay, create a nice poem about Biden, and it came up with this beautiful poem, and all the good attributes of him. And then they said, okay, do the same thing for Trump. I said, sorry, there's no information available.
Yeah, well, it's just trying to scan through the internet and try to figure out what everyone else is saying about these things.
Hey, we got to get to our next break. Here we go.
Okay.
Who was the first NBA player to be elected the MVP by unanimous vote? Who was the first player? All right. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back with some closing comments. Don't touch that. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Our third trivia question: who was the first player to be elected the MVP by unanimous vote?
And it's pretty amazing to know that it took this long to happen, but Steph Curry was the first one to be elected.
Yeah, that is correct. And
it's
what
amazing to say that people wouldn't vote for Michael Jordan, that they wouldn't vote for Magic Johnson, that Bill Russell didn't get it, that Wilt Chamberlain didn't get it. It is pretty remarkable that all these other great players, someone would sit there and not vote for, Michael Jordan.
Well, it's the same thing like Ted Williams. There were players who didn't want him in the Hall of Fame.
Someone didn't vote for Willie Mays. Someone didn't vote for him.
Didn't like him. I know. It's kind of so stupid. But give me the year, and then we'll cut out for our thoughts of the day.
Wasn't that the 2015, 2016 year?
2016. Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
are you ready?
Got that 23-win season. So, how could you not give it to him?
All right, here's our thoughts for the day. Diet day number 1. I removed all of the fattening food from my house. It was delicious. I knew you'd like that. And when I was little, I asked my mom how I was born. She told me that a stork brought me to her. When I asked the same question about how she and Daddy were born, I got the same answer, the stork, as well as when I asked about Grandma and Grandpa. Several days later, I handed in a report telling my teacher how difficult it was to write because there hadn't been a natural child person in my family for 3 generations.
Wow. All right, then.
You like that? I thought that was pretty good. All right, audience, Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Adios.
So long.